Hello viewers, before we continue this amazing story about Emeka, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell icon to get notified when we drop new videos. Tell us where you're watching from before and after watching so we can map our audience and it will help us provide more amazing stories. Now enjoy. Anika was back at her office, going through some reports when a soft knock interrupted her thoughts. She looked up and saw Chisholm, her assistant, peeking in. "Madam, someone is here to see you." Anika raised an eyebrow. "Who?" Chisholm hesitated. "It's your aunt. And her husband." Anika's fingers froze on the papers she was holding. Slowly, she placed them down and exhaled. "Let them in." Chisholm nodded and disappeared. Moments later, her aunt, Epema, and Uncle Emeka walked in. They looked nothing like the proud, wealthy people she had once known. Emeka's clothes were worn, his once well-groomed beard unkempt. Epema, who used to wear expensive lace and gold jewelry, was now dressed in simple attire, her face lined with stress. Anika leaned back in her chair, watching them. "To what do I owe this visit?" Epema cleared her throat, shifting uncomfortably. "Anika, we wanted to talk to you." Anika folded her arms. "Talk about what?" Emeka sighed. "Things have been hard for us. You know about the police investigation. We lost everything. The house, the cars, the business, gone. And now, we barely have enough to eat." Anika's lips pressed together. "And what do you want from me?" Epema's eyes watered. "Anika, please, we are family. We wronged you, yes. We made mistakes, but..." "Mistakes?" Anika cut in, her voice sharp. "You call what you did to me a mistake? You took me in as a child and turned me into a slave. You watched me suffer and did nothing. And now that your world has collapsed, you come to me." Emeka lowered his head. "We have nowhere else to go. No one else will help us." Anika stared at them for a long moment. She thought back to the nights she had cried herself to sleep, the hunger, the insults, the endless suffering. But she also remembered something else, the day Mr. Aid had changed her life by giving her an opportunity when no one else did. She took a deep breath. "I will not let you starve. There's food at the staff cafeteria. You can eat there like every other worker." Epema gasped. "You want us to eat with the workers?" "Yes," Anika said firmly. "Because that is what you are now. Workers. And if you want to survive, you will have to work, just like I did." Emeka clenched his jaw. "Does this mean you're giving us jobs?" Anika's eyes did not waver. "That depends. Are you willing to work for what you eat?" Epema's lips trembled, but she nodded slowly. Emeka, after a long pause, gave a short nod as well. Anika stood. "Then you start tomorrow. Chisholm will tell you where to report." As they turned to leave, Epema looked back, her voice small. "Thank you, Anika." Anika didn't reply. She simply watched them go, feeling no triumph, no bitterness, just the quiet satisfaction of knowing that justice, in its own way, had been served. The next morning, Epema and Emeka arrived at the mall just before sunrise. The cool morning air did little to ease the discomfort in their hearts. They had never imagined a day would come when they would have to work for a living, especially not under the same girl they had once mistreated. Chisholm was already waiting for them. She handed them their uniforms, plain blue shirts and black trousers. "You'll be working in the warehouse. That's where all the new stock is received and sorted before being moved to the store." Epema swallowed hard. "Warehouse? Can't we work in the main mall? Maybe as supervisors?" Chisholm's expression didn't change. "The warehouse." Then, after a pause, she added, "That's what Madam said." Emeka sighed and took the uniform, while Epema hesitated before finally collecting hers. They changed into their new outfits and followed Chisholm to the warehouse at the back of the mall. The space was massive, filled with towering shelves packed with goods. Several workers were already busy unloading trucks, stacking boxes, and sorting through inventory. A man in his 40s, wearing a security badge, approached them. "You must be the new workers." I'm Mr. Ig, the warehouse supervisor. We have a lot of work to do, so let's not waste time. Follow me. Epema and Emeka exchanged a glance but said nothing as they followed Mr. Igu deeper into the warehouse. Their first task was unloading a truck filled with heavy cartons of groceries. Epema, who had spent most of her life giving orders and living in comfort, struggled to even lift one box. Sweat quickly covered her face as she tried to keep up with the other workers. Emeka, on the other hand, managed better but was clearly exhausted within the first hour. At break time, they sat on a wooden bench at the side of the warehouse, panting heavily. Epema winced as she rubbed her sore arms. I can't do this, Emeka. This is too much. Emeka wiped his forehead with the back of his hand. Do you think we have a choice? We lost everything. If we leave now, we'll have nowhere to go. Just then, one of the workers walked past them with a plate of steaming jollof rice from the cafeteria. The smell made Epema's stomach growl loudly. She looked away, embarrassed. She had never had to work this hard just to eat before. Later that evening, when their shift was over, Epema and Emeka walked into the staff cafeteria, their bodies aching. They stood in line, holding trays like everyone else. When it was their turn, the server, a woman in her late 50s, glanced at them curiously. You're new here? Emeka gave a short nod. Yes. The woman smiled slightly and handed them their plates. Welcome. Hard work pays. You'll get used to it. As they carried their food to a table, Epema looked around and saw workers laughing and talking, eating their meals without shame. She realized this was their reality now. No special treatment. No luxury. Just work, eat, and survive. At that moment, Anika walked in, dressed in an elegant navy blue suit. She didn't acknowledge them but instead spoke briefly to Chisholm before walking towards her private office. Epema and Emeka watched her in silence, the weight of their choices pressing down on them more than ever before. The days stretched into weeks, and the harsh reality of their new lives settled heavily on Epema and Emeka. Each morning, they reported to the warehouse, lifting, sorting, and sweating under the weight of their past mistakes. The same past that had once made them powerful had now reduced them to mere workers struggling for survival. One afternoon, as Epema was struggling to move a particularly heavy box, she felt a sharp pain shoot up her back. She dropped the carton with a loud thud and let out a groan, holding her waist. Emeka rushed to her side. Are you okay? I can't do this anymore, Emeka, she whispered, her voice laced with frustration and pain. I was never meant for this kind of suffering. Before Emeka could respond, Mr. Ig, the warehouse supervisor, approached them. If you can't lift, you can sort. There's no room for laziness here. Epema bit her lip, holding back tears. She had never been spoken to this way before. She was used to giving orders, not being ordered around. But now, no one cared who she was. That evening, after their shift, Emeka and Epema sat on a bench outside the mall. The streetlights flickered above them as workers rushed past, eager to go home. Epema stared into the distance, lost in thought. Do you ever wonder if Anika planned all this? She suddenly asked. Emeka shook his head. No. She didn't have to. Life has its way of balancing things. We made our choices, and now we're paying for them. Epema scoffed. I never thought I'd see the day when Anika would have everything, and we would have nothing. It's humiliating. Just then, laughter erupted from the entrance of the mall. They turned and saw a group of employees talking excitedly. At the center of it all was Anika, looking as confident as ever. She was discussing business plans with some of the senior staff, completely unaware of Epema and Emeka's presence. Epema clenched her fists. She doesn't even acknowledge us. After everything. Emeka sighed. Would you, if you were in her position? After the way we treated her? Silence fell between them. The next morning, an even bigger shock awaited them. As they clocked in for their shift, a police van pulled up in front of the mall. Officers stepped out, scanning the entrance. Whispers spread among the workers. Something big was happening. Then, to their horror, one of the officers pointed at Emeka. "You. Come with us." Emeka's face paled. "Me? What for?" "You were one of the financial handlers for your former company, right? There's an ongoing investigation. We need to ask you some questions." Epema's breath hitched. "No. This can't be happening." Emeka turned to her, his face filled with panic. "Epema, do something." But there was nothing she could do. The officers grabbed Emeka, leading him toward the van. He struggled, pleading his innocence, but they didn't listen. As Epema watched the van drive away, she realized something: this was just the beginning of their downfall. And for the first time in her life, true fear gripped her heart. The silence that followed Emeka's arrest was deafening. Epema stood frozen, her mind spinning in 1,000 directions. How had it come to this? Just a year ago, she was the madam of a luxurious mansion, dictating orders with a single glance. Now, she was nothing but a mere worker, watching helplessly as her husband was driven away by the police. She turned back toward the warehouse, but the looks on her co-workers' faces told her everything. They had no sympathy for her. She was just another struggling worker in their eyes, no different from the rest. Swallowing her pride, Epema forced herself to resume her shift. But every movement felt mechanical, every breath heavy with shame. As she folded clothes inside the store, her mind raced. She needed a way out. She needed a plan. Hours later, she was sitting outside the mall, waiting for any news on Emeka. Her heart jumped when she saw Anika stepping out of a sleek, black car, followed by two of her senior managers. They were discussing business, something important, from the way they walked with purpose. Anika's confidence, her power, was unmistakable. Epema clenched her jaw. This was the same girl she had treated like dirt. The same girl she had mocked, humiliated, and overworked. Now, Anika was untouchable. Summoning every ounce of courage, Epema stood up and walked toward her. "Anika," she called out. Anika turned, her face blank, as if she was looking at a stranger. "Yes." The coldness in her voice sent a chill down Epema's spine. Gone was the timid girl she once ordered around. This was a woman who had built an empire. Epema swallowed hard. "Please. I need your help." "Emeka, he was just arrested. It's a misunderstanding. I know we wronged you. I know we treated you unfairly, but please. I have nowhere else to turn." For a moment, Anika simply stared at her. Then, she sighed. "Epema, I spent years suffering in your house. You never once showed me kindness. Not even when I was sick, not when I was hungry, not when I cried myself to sleep. And now, you expect me to help you?" Epema's eyes welled up. "Anika, I am begging. I don't know what else to do." Anika studied her for a long moment before shaking her head. "You once told me that life is for the strong. Now, you have to be strong, Epema. Just like I was." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Epema standing there, her heart sinking. She had never felt so powerless. For the first time in her life, she truly understood what it meant to be at someone else's mercy. Epema sat outside the mall, staring into space. The humiliation burned her from the inside out. Anika's words echoed in her ears, sharp, final. She had begged, something she never imagined she would do, and yet, Anika had turned her away without a second thought. Her hands trembled as she dug into her handbag, bringing out the last few naira notes she had. It wasn't enough to do anything. Not even enough to buy a decent meal. She sighed deeply, her throat tightening as the weight of her new reality crushed her. The once proud woman who had dictated every movement in her home was now struggling to survive. Her husband's arrest had stripped them of the little dignity they had left. The house was already gone, the bank had seized it due to unpaid loans. The cars sold to settle debts. All that remained was a tiny apartment, barely fit for one person, yet she, Emeka, and their son had to share it. She looked down at the food court inside the mall. The smell of jollof rice and fried chicken filled the air, making her stomach twist in hunger. She hadn't eaten since morning. Swallowing her pride, she walked toward the food vendors, hoping to find something cheap. As she approached, she heard laughter. Familiar laughter. She turned her head slightly and saw her son, Chijioke, sitting with a group of his friends. They were eating, drinking, enjoying themselves like nothing was wrong. Her heart sank. Where did he get the money? Anger bubbled inside her as she marched toward him. Chijioke. He turned, startled. His friends went silent, sensing the tension. What are you doing here? Where did you get the money for all this? Epema demanded. Chijioke looked embarrassed. Mama, it's not what you think. I needed a break. Everything has been too much. A break. While your father is rotting in a cell. While I am struggling to find food. Her voice rose, drawing the attention of other diners. Chijioke clenched his jaw. What do you want me to do? Sit at home and cry? That won't bring us money. It won't fix anything. Epema's breath came in short gasps. She wanted to slap sense into him, but what would that change? Instead, she shook her head. We need to figure out a way to survive. Not waste what little we have on things like this. He exhaled heavily, rubbing his temples. Mama, what if we go to Anika again? Maybe we can apologize properly this time. Maybe she will help. Epema froze. The thought made her skin crawl, but what choice did she have? Pride wouldn't put food on the table. And right now, they were sinking faster than she could keep up with. Would Anika ever forgive them? Could she? Anika leaned back in her office chair, her fingers tapping lightly on the polished wooden desk. She had barely gotten over the shock of seeing her former tormentors beg for food. The look on Epema's face had been priceless, but a small part of her, one she had buried long ago, felt a twinge of something. Not pity, not regret. Something else. She sighed, pushing the thought away. The past was the past. She had built herself up from nothing, and she owed them nothing. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Come in, she called. Her assistant, Chika, peeked in. Madam, there's someone here to see you. Anika raised a brow. Who? Chika hesitated. It's Epema. And her son. They're asking for just a few minutes of your time. Anika scoffed. I knew it. They didn't come to apologize the first time. They came to see if they could still get something out of me. Chika folded her hands. Should I send them away? Anika exhaled deeply. She could easily refuse to see them. But something told her this was a moment she had to face. Let them in. A few minutes later, the door opened, and Epema walked in with Chijioke trailing behind her. Epema looked thinner, weaker. Her once flawless skin looked tired, stretched with stress. Chijioke, the boy who had once mocked her, wouldn't even meet her eyes. Anika crossed her legs and rested her hands on the desk. What do you want? Her voice was cold, controlled. Epema cleared her throat. Anika, she paused, stealing a glance at her son before turning back to Anika. We need help. My husband is still in police custody. Our home is gone. I have nothing. Anika raised a brow. And? Epema swallowed. And I know I don't deserve anything from you. I know we treated you horribly. I know I was cruel. But I'm begging you as a mother. If not for me, please, help my son. Anika shifted her gaze to Chijioke, who still couldn't lift his head. Chijioke, what do you have to say? His lips parted, but no words came out. Shame was written all over his face. Anika leaned forward. Do you remember the last time we saw each other before this? You laughed at me. You mocked me in front of your parents. What was it you said? That I was a mere worker in my own store? She chuckled, but there was no humor in it. And now, here you are, in my office, begging. Chijioke finally looked up, his eyes glossy. I was wrong. His voice was hoarse, filled with something raw. I was stupid. I believed everything my parents told me. I thought you were beneath us. I was wrong, Anika. Please. We just need a chance. The room fell silent. Anika stared at them for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Should she let them suffer the way they made her suffer? Or should she be better than them? Anika exhaled, her fingers drumming lightly on the desk. The air in the room was thick with tension. Epema and Chijioke sat before her, their faces heavy with desperation. The silence stretched, each second making their discomfort more apparent. You want me to help you? Anika finally said, tilting her head slightly. After everything? Epema clasped her hands together. Anika, I know I don't deserve it. I know I was wicked to you. I treated you like nothing when you were just a child. And I regret it. I swear to you, I regret it every single day. Chijioke nodded, his voice barely above a whisper. I do too. Anika studied them. She could see the exhaustion in their eyes, the weight of their downfall pressing them down. There was no pride left in them. No arrogance. Just need. She sighed and stood up, walking toward the large window that overlooked the bustling city of Enugu. She had fought hard to get to where she was. She had clawed her way out of suffering, built something powerful out of nothing. Was it really in her to forgive? To help? She turned back to face them. What exactly are you asking for? Epema hesitated before speaking. Anything, Anika. I'll do anything. I just need a job. Any kind of work to support my son. I won't take your kindness for granted. I just want a chance. Chijioke cleared his throat. I can work too. I don't care what it is. I just need to help my mother. Anika sighed. And what about your father? The man who let you treat me like a slave in his house. Where is he? Epema's eyes darkened. Still in police custody. His trial is in a few weeks. Everything we owned is gone. The money, the house, everything. We have nowhere to go. Anika watched her, emotions swirling inside her. She could turn them away. It would be so easy. Or she could do what they never did for her. After a long pause, she spoke. I don't know if I can ever forgive you, Epema. Or you, Chijioke. But I'll think about it. If I decide to help, Chika will reach out to you. Epema's eyes widened in gratitude. Thank you, Anika. Thank you so much. I didn't say yes, Anika reminded her, her voice firm. I said I'll think about it. Now go. Epema and Chijioke stood, bowed slightly, and turned to leave. Just before reaching the door, Chijioke paused and looked back at her. I mean it, Anika. I'm sorry. Anika said nothing, only watching as they walked out of her office. When the door closed, she let out a deep breath. Was she truly ready to let go of the past? Or was this just another test life was throwing her way? Anika sat in her office long after Epema and Chijioke had left. Her thoughts were tangled, her heart at war with her mind. The little girl inside her, the one who had scrubbed floors until her fingers bled, who had slept on the cold kitchen tiles while her so-called family rested on soft beds, screamed at her to walk away. To let them suffer the way she had suffered. But was she that person? Was she capable of being as cruel as they had been to her? A soft knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Chika, her trusted assistant, stepped in. Madam, are you okay? She asked, her eyes filled with concern. Anika forced a small smile. Just thinking. Chika nodded, then hesitated. I saw Epema and her son leaving. They looked broken. What did they want? A second chance, Anika muttered, leaning back in her chair. They want jobs. A fresh start. Chika's brows furrowed. After everything they did. After the way they treated you. She scoffed, shaking her head. People like that don't change. They only come back when they need something. Anika sighed. That's what I thought too. But, if I turn them away, doesn't that make me just like them? Cold. Unforgiving. Chika crossed her arms. No, it makes you strong. It shows that you remember what they did to you and refuse to let them walk all over you again. Anika rubbed her temples. I don't know, Chika. I keep thinking about it. What if they truly have changed? What if this is my chance to rise above everything? Chika studied her for a moment before sighing. At the end of the day, it's your decision. But just remember, kindness is not weakness. If you help them, make sure they know it's on your terms, not theirs. Anika nodded slowly. You're right. If I help them, it won't be out of guilt. It will be because I choose to. Chika smiled. Then make your choice and don't look back. As Chika left the office, Anika leaned forward and picked up her pen, tapping it against the desk. She had a decision to make. Was she ready to be the bigger person, or would she finally let them feel the pain of rejection? She reached for her phone and dialed a number. Epema's voice came through, hesitant and anxious. Meet me tomorrow morning, Anika said firmly. We need to talk. Then she hung up, her mind set. Whatever happened next would be on her terms. The next morning, Anika sat in the VIP lounge of her mall, waiting. The air conditioning hummed softly, the scent of freshly brewed coffee filling the space. She had barely touched her cup when the door opened, and Epema walked in, followed closely by Chijioke and her husband, Emeka. They looked nervous. Emeka's once proud shoulders were hunched, his face hollow from stress. Epema clutched her handbag tightly, her fingers trembling. Chijioke kept glancing around like he was expecting security to throw them out at any moment. Anika gestured for them to sit. You wanted a second chance. I want to hear why. Emeka cleared his throat. Anika. We made mistakes. Big ones. And we are not here to make excuses. We're here because we have nothing left. I lost my job, my investments are gone, and the house. He swallowed hard. The house was taken last week. We have nowhere to go. Anika studied him, then turned to Epema. And you? Tears welled in Epema's eyes. I regret everything, Anika. I treated you horribly. I see that now. I don't expect you to forgive me, but her voice cracked. I just want my son to have a future. If you could just help him, help us. I swear we will work for it. Chijioke shifted in his seat. Auntie Anika, I know I was rude to you. I was a child, but that's not an excuse. I see you now, and I realize how wrong I was. His voice was quiet, but sincere. I don't deserve your help, but my parents, they have suffered enough. Anika took a deep breath. She had prepared herself for begging, for fake apologies. But what she saw in their eyes now was real desperation. She leaned forward. You will work here. But not in high positions. You will start from the bottom, just like I did. If you accept that, I will give you jobs. But understand this is not pity. It is a lesson. Emeka nodded quickly. Anything, Anika. Thank you. If Anika had learned anything in her years of struggle, it was that power wasn't in revenge, it was in control. And now, she had full control over what happened next. She stood up. Report to Chika at HR. She will assign you roles. And don't ever take this for granted. As they thanked her over and over, Anika simply watched them. She had given them what they asked for. But the real question was, would they truly change, or was history doomed to repeat itself? Emeka, Epema, and Chijioke stood outside the HR office, exchanging uneasy glances. The weight of their downfall sat heavily on their shoulders. Just months ago, they had never imagined they would be in this position, desperate, humiliated, and at the mercy of the very girl they had once tormented. Chika, the HR manager, stepped out, her gaze cool as she looked them over. Follow me. She led them through a long hallway and into a small, plain office. A stack of employment forms lay on the table. Sign these. Your positions will be assigned after this. As Epema reached for a pen, she hesitated. What kind of positions exactly? Chika raised a brow. You are applying for entry-level jobs. You don't get to choose. Ebuka clenched his jaw but said nothing. He signed first, then Epema, and finally Chijioke. When they were done, Chika picked up the forms and flipped through them quickly. Ebuka, you'll be working in the warehouse, lifting and sorting goods. Epema, you'll be on the cleaning staff. Chijioke, you will assist in stocking the supermarket shelves. Report to your supervisors immediately. If the ground could open up and swallow Epema, she would have gladly let it. Cleaning. After years of wealth and comfort. She opened her mouth to argue, but one look at Chika's firm expression told her it was useless. Ebuka nodded stiffly. Thank you for the opportunity. Chika smirked slightly. No need to thank me. You should be thanking Anika. If not for her, you wouldn't even be here. As they walked out, dressed in their new work uniforms, the humiliation settled deeper. Epema caught a glimpse of her reflection in a glass door, once a woman who wore the finest clothes, now reduced to a cleaner. Her hands trembled, but she took a deep breath. Pride would not feed them. They had no choice but to endure. Meanwhile, Anika watched from her office window, observing as they were led to their new duties. A part of her felt satisfied, but another part wondered, would this really change them? Or was this just another phase in their endless cycle of entitlement? Anika sat in her office, her fingers tapping lightly against the desk. A part of her still couldn't believe how much had changed over the years. The same family that had once treated her like a slave was now working under her roof. She sighed, pushing the thoughts aside as she focused on the report in front of her. Just then, her assistant, Ngozi, stepped in. Ma, the new employees have started their duties, Ngozi said, her voice tinged with amusement. Should I send security to keep an eye on them? Anika shook her head. No need. Let them adjust on their own. If they choose to run, that's their problem. Ngozi smirked. I doubt they will. They don't have anywhere else to go. Meanwhile, down in the warehouse, Ebuka wiped the sweat off his forehead. The work was far more intense than he had anticipated. Lifting boxes, sorting goods, it was humiliating, exhausting, and completely unfamiliar to him. He had never worked a day in his life. On the other side of the mall, Epema dragged the mop across the floor, her once manicured hands now rough and sore. She kept her head down, hoping no one she knew would recognize her. But fate was cruel. A group of women she once called friends walked by, chatting and laughing. One of them glanced in her direction, squinting as if trying to confirm what she was seeing. Epema, the woman gasped. What are you doing? Epema froze, her grip tightening around the mop handle. She wanted to disappear. She's mopping. Another woman whispered, barely hiding her shock. Ah, wonders shall never end. The laughter followed her as she forced herself to keep cleaning. Every insult, every giggle burned into her soul. Her past was finally catching up with her. Later that evening, Anika passed through the mall, watching as her former tormentors struggled with their new reality. Ebuka, Chijioke, and Epema, all of them reduced to what they once looked down upon. Anika stopped and faced them. I hope you're settling in well, she said, her voice neutral. Ebuka swallowed his pride. Anika, we just want to say. She raised a hand. Spare me the apologies. They don't change the past. Just do your work and earn your pay. That's all. Without another word, she walked away, leaving them standing in their shame. They had lost everything, and now, they had to face the consequences of their actions. The days passed slowly for Epema, Ebuka, and Chijioke. The reality of their new lives sank in deeper with each humiliating task. Epema, once the woman who flaunted wealth and looked down on others, now scrubbed the floors of the very mall she used to shop in. Ebuka, the man who once gave orders, now took them. Chijioke, who had laughed at Anika years ago, now struggled to move heavy cartons in the storeroom, his once soft palms covered in blisters. Anika observed them from a distance, her face unreadable. It wasn't satisfaction she felt, nor was it pity. It was simply justice. Life had finally balanced itself. One evening, as Anika locked up her office, she found a booker waiting for her at the entrance. His once arrogant eyes now held nothing but exhaustion and regret. "Anika, please," he started, his voice low. "Can we talk?" She crossed her arms. "Talk about what, a booker? How you and your wife treated me like trash. How you made me a servant in my own family." He swallowed hard. "I know we were wrong. I know we don't deserve your forgiveness, but we're struggling, Anika. I don't know what to do anymore." Anika exhaled sharply. "A booker, I worked hard for everything I have today. I fought through pain, humiliation, and suffering. You," she pointed at him, "made my life miserable. Now, you want me to fix yours." A booker had no words. He lowered his gaze, ashamed. "Just do your job," she said finally. "That's the only help you're getting from me." As she walked away, she heard a sniffle. She turned slightly and saw Epema standing behind a pillar, silently wiping her tears. Maybe, just maybe, karma wasn't done with them yet. The next morning, Epema arrived at work earlier than usual. Her once well-manicured nails were now broken, her expensive perfumes replaced by the scent of cleaning chemicals. She looked at her reflection in the glass doors of the mall and barely recognized herself. She had lost weight, her once radiant skin now dull from stress and sleepless nights. Chijioke shuffled beside her, his shoulders slumped. "Mama, I can't do this anymore," he whispered. "The boys in school used to respect me. Now, some of them come here to shop and laugh at me. I feel like dying." Epema placed a hand on his shoulder, her eyes welling up. "My son, we have no choice. We must endure." Just then, the security guard, a man Epema had once rudely dismissed at a party years ago, smirked as he unlocked the door. "You're early today, cleaner. Better start sweeping before Madam arrives." Epema's stomach twisted with shame, but she said nothing. She stepped inside and grabbed the mop, silently praying for a miracle. Meanwhile, Anika sat in her office, staring at the morning reports. There was a knock at the door. "Come in," she said without looking up. A booker entered, holding his cap in his hands like a defeated man. "Anika, please, just hear me out." She sighed, closing the file. "What do you want, a booker? Another chance to manipulate me?" "No," he said quickly. "I just want to say I'm sorry. Truly sorry. For everything. I was blinded by greed. I let Epema control how I treated you, and I failed as a man. But please, Anika, we are suffering. Chijioke is suffering. Epema cries every night." Anika studied him for a long time. The once proud man before her was now a shadow of himself. "And you think an apology will change the past?" she asked. A booker lowered his head. "No. But maybe it can change the future." Anika leaned back, considering his words. She had waited years for this moment. To see them humbled, broken, just as they had once broken her. But something inside her, something deeper than revenge, whispered a question. Had they suffered enough? Anika folded her arms, her gaze never leaving a booker. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioner. She had dreamed of this moment, seeing him weak, desperate, begging. But now that it was here, it didn't bring her the satisfaction she had expected. "You said you're sorry," she said, tilting her head slightly. "But sorry doesn't erase years of pain. Sorry doesn't take away the nights I cried myself to sleep, the days I worked like a slave in my own family's house. Sorry won't give me back my childhood." A booker swallowed hard. "I know, and I hate myself for it. I was a fool. I let my greed blind me. Epema, she poisoned my mind against you. But I take responsibility. I should have known better. And now," his voice broke. "Now, I have nothing. My wife, my son, we are suffering. Anika, please. If not for me, then for Chijioke." Anika's lips pressed into a thin line. Chijioke. The same boy who used to throw insults at her, who laughed when she was punished for things she didn't do. But he was just a child back then. And now, he was suffering the consequences of his parents' greed. She took a deep breath and leaned forward. What do you want from me, Ebuka? Money? A job? Forgiveness? Ebuka shook his head quickly. I won't ask for money. I know we don't deserve it. I just need a chance. Any job. Something to put food on the table. Anika studied him for a long moment. She had worked too hard to get here. She had built this empire with sweat and sacrifice. Giving them an easy way out would be an insult to everything she endured. If you want a job, you'll have to earn it, she finally said. Just like everyone else. No special favors. No shortcuts. If you truly want to change, prove it. Ebuka's eyes filled with relief. Thank you, Anika. Thank you so much. She raised a hand. Don't thank me yet. Report to the manager tomorrow. You'll start at the lowest level. No complaints. No excuses. He nodded eagerly. I understand. I'll do anything. Anika leaned back, watching as he turned to leave. The past could never be erased. But maybe, just maybe, it didn't have to define the future. The next morning, Ebuka arrived at the mall before sunrise. He stood at the staff entrance, his heart pounding as he adjusted the faded shirt he had managed to find. This was his reality now. No more expensive suits, no private drivers, just him and the consequences of his past actions. The manager, a strict woman named Madame Kechi, barely glanced at him as she handed him a mop. You're on cleaning duty. The store floors must be spotless before we open. No slacking. Ebuka swallowed his pride and nodded. He had no choice. As he bent down to scrub the floor, he felt eyes on him. Some of the workers whispered, recognizing who he was. Just months ago, he had walked through this very mall with authority. Now, he was reduced to this. But he kept his head down and worked. Hours later, as he carried a heavy trash bag outside, he heard laughter. When he turned, he saw Chijioke standing near the food court. The boy's uniform was slightly oversized, and his shoes were worn out. He held a lunch tray but looked hesitant, as if unsure where to sit. A wave of guilt hit Ebuka. His son, who once had the best of everything, was now struggling. And Anika, his niece, the girl he had mistreated, was the reason they had even gotten this second chance. Anika stepped out of her office just then, pausing when she saw them. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the weight of their history hung between them. Chijioke, she called, her voice softer than he expected. Come and eat in my office. The boy looked at his father, unsure. Ebuka gave a small nod, eyes glistening with unshed tears. Anika turned back to him. Keep working hard, Ebuka. This is only the beginning. As she walked away with Chijioke, Ebuka stood frozen. He had expected cruelty, mockery, or rejection. Instead, she had given him something he never thought he deserved, mercy. Tears slipped down his face as he bent to pick up another bag of trash. This was his journey now. And for the first time in years, he was ready to face it. Hello family, we hope you're enjoying this story so far. If you want a part 3 let us know, but if you think the story should end here also let us know in the comment section. Kindly tell us where you are watching from and the time your watch says right now in the comment section. We would love to hear from you, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell notification. New series are coming very soon. Subscribe. Feel free to support us by joining Zahra Premium. Thank you. Our viewer award for last week goes to Kim Yvette Bartges.